All right. Um, what does a mayor do? How many of you get this question all the time? What does a mayor do? You ever go to an elementary school? And that's the first question they ask is, do you know President Obama? And then the second question they ask is, what does a mayor do? But you can go to a high school, they ask the same. You go to a dinner party of intelligent and accomplished people, and they'll look at you and they'll say, so what exactly does a mayor actually do? And the simple answer is, we're in charge of the police departments, the fire departments, we're in charge of the streets. The more profound answer is, it's our responsibility to make sure that everyone who lives in our cities and villages has the opportunity for satisfaction and lives of purpose. It's the profound answer. You want the true answer? The true answer is, we spend all of our time trying to persuade people to do things that we can't force them to do. Right? That's what being a mayor is, okay? It's not like being a boss. If you're the boss, you can force someone to do something. You could say, do this, thank you. If you're a mayor, you are a persuader. You're a persuader in chief. You have to convince the staff to listen to you, even though you've only been there for 4 years and will only be there for 4 more, or in the case of Mayor Hogan, for 28 more. You have to convince your village board or your city council to do what you want them to do. You have to convince the public to work with you, to trust you. You have to be persuasive. And I want to give you my tip. I want to share with you a tool that I learned on how to be persuasive. But before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about my favorite subject, myself, right? It's all mayor's favorite subjects. I am Svante Myrick. I'm the mayor of Ithaca, New York. I'm 28 now. I turned 28 last month. And that means in March of 1987, I was born. And when I was born with the umbilical cord wrapped twice around my neck. Have you ever heard of this? I end up as a blue baby, right? That's how people end up very smart and handsome. That's how you do it. It's if you're a blue baby, things turn out well. We spent the first week in the hospital, my mother and I, and when we came home, this was 1 week after I was born, she came home to a red eviction notice on her door. And that's the first time that we fell into homelessness. I lived the first 6 months of my life in a homeless shelter, and for the first 8 years of my life, we were in and out of homelessness. We lived sometimes in shelters and sometimes in our car. When I was 18, I got into Cornell University. I worked 3 jobs to help pay my way through. When I was 20 years old and a junior at Cornell, I was elected to the city council in Ithaca. I served there for 4 years before running in a 4-way race. I had a 3-way Democratic primary, then a 4-way race where I won 18 out of 18 elections and 55% of the vote. My reward when I came in, this is back in 2012, we had a $3 million budget deficit. It was the largest budget deficit in the city of Ithaca's history, by far. We had spent down our savings because we were now in the 4th or 5th year of the economic collapse. We didn't know what we were going to do. So we started cutting, we started consolidating. Cut the police department by about 10%. Right? Merged the planning and the building division, the clerk's office with the IT department. Right? We merged the controller's office with the chamberlain's office. We rezoned our downtown and our college town to stimulate economic growth. We have hundreds of millions of dollars of projects that are in the ground or right now under construction. Our economy's grown so fast that we now have the lowest unemployment rate in all of New York State. And we were able to not only close the budget deficit, but last year we actually lowered taxes. Lowered taxes. At the same time, we're making the largest investments in our public infrastructure we've ever made. A $40 million water plant rebuild, a $16 million rebuild of the Ithaca Commons, our downtown, the center, both geographically and culturally, of our community. So that's me. That took quite some persuading. All of that took a lot of persuading. Getting elected, getting into Cornell, I had to do some fast talking, okay? It all took persuasion, and it all took convincing. I find that the the best way to persuade is to tell a story. A story persuades better than anything else. This is actually a frustrating fact of life for mayors. You ever show somebody the statistics, you give them the facts, you commission a report and a study, and then you ask your board to vote, and they're swayed because somebody came in with a compelling story. No facts, no figures, no numbers, but the story was there and that moved their hearts and minds. Have you ever seen this? Has this ever happened to you? Yeah. Be the one that tells the story. Use the facts and figures to inform your own decision making, but be the one that tells the story. And here's the way you have to tell those stories. There's a extremely successful brain surgeon. And nobody quite knew why this brain surgeon's mortality rates were far, far lower than the industry standard. Right? Was it because he was more technically proficient? Did he have better hands? Why was it that him, of all places, patients who came to him survived their procedures more than any other neurosurgeon in the world? And a reporter for Atlantic magazine set out to follow this brain surgeon to figure out why that was. And they followed him for weeks. They watched them in the operating room, they watched them at home, they watched them as they walked around the hospital, and they stumbled over it when they saw the surgeon on his way into surgery stop and talk for 15 minutes to somebody in the hallway who was pushing a broom. Right? For 15 minutes he talked to this man before rushing off, getting scrubbed up, and going into the operating room. So the journalist is thinking, this is one of the highest paid and most successful medical practitioners in the world, and he just spent 15 minutes. He went over and he said, that was a long conversation with the doctor. You must be quite important. And he took out his pad. He said, what is it that you do here at the hospital? And the man holding the broom said, we save lives. Right? He said, we save lives. He didn't say, I sweep. Right? He didn't even say, I sweep so that the doctor can save lives. The answer he gave was the answer that we should hope every one of our employees, our board members, our council members would give when asked not just what does a mayor do, but what does a superintendent of public works do? We improve the city. What does a police chief do? We improve the village. What does a town board member do? Village board member. They get on your nerves is what they do. No, I'm kidding. I know we have board members here, council members here. We love you. We love you very much. No, we don't. No, we love you very much. How did the doctor do that? The doctor did that by making clear that the center of their success, here's the truth. We are not the heroes of our communities. And we have to remember that. We're not the heroes of our stories. Everybody who works for us and with us is the hero of their own story. And the more you can make that clear to them, the more you can make clear that you understand that, the better off you'll be. I told you a story about myself just a few minutes ago that was frankly woefully inadequate and incomplete. I told you that I got into Cornell University. Well, I didn't really. My mother and my grandparents worked selflessly for 18 years to whip me, often against my will, into shape, to force me to do my homework, to work 3 jobs, all at a minimum wage, to make sure that I had a stable enough home life to succeed in school. And I worked 3 part-time jobs to get through Cornell, but that paid for less than half of tuition, room, and board, less than half, with 3 jobs. The rest was made up with Pell Grants, TAP grants, and scholarships from alumni who I've never met and never will, but gave because they believed that somebody else could become a hero of their own story. When I was elected at 20 years old, it was because I had a dozen people who believed in me. When I was elected at 24, it was because I had 200 volunteers who knocked on every door in the city of Ithaca 17 times. 17 times. They were persuasive. That effort is persuasive. Those people are persuasive. And the more we tell ourselves stories about ourselves that include the cast around us, the more we remind ourselves that there is no such thing as an individual success, that all successes are community successes. If we remind ourselves too of the opposite, which is that all failures are failures of community, that every junkie you see on the streets is a failure of your community and not just of that person. Just like every successful business person is a testament to their entire community. If we can remind ourselves of that and tell our stories with that in mind, here's the best way that you can persuade your staff, your town board, and the public to trust you. Take I out of your vocabulary. Use we almost exclusively. And when you thank people, and the first and last job of a mayor is to thank people. When you thank people, show them how they were your hero. Don't just say thank you for getting that memo done on time. Don't even just say thank you for getting that memo done on time. Doing that made the city of Ithaca a better place. Don't even just say that. Say this. Say thank you for getting that memo done on time. It made the city of Ithaca a better place, and it made my job so much easier because of the work that you did. When you do that, no matter how flawed or imperfect you are, no matter how many mistakes you make every day, and I'm averaging about 6 or 7 a day. Some of them are real humdingers. No matter how imperfect you are, you will find that the people around you, as they have my whole life, will hold you up. They'll carry you through. Their work will make up for your imperfections. Their sacrifice will cover over your flaws. And their effort will make your village and your city a place worth living in. God bless you for your work, and thank you very much.